All right, welcome back to that One Random Podcast. I'm Cypher.
I'm Trevor.
We just had a real funny moment, so excuse us that we're laughing a little bit. Yeah. All right, but we're going to talk about Michael Jackson today. Yeah.
Cool.
So give me your thoughts on Michael, man.
Yeah, as of today, I think Michael Jackson is one of the greatest artists of all time. I think he was a victim of the whole Hollywood movement.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that Michael Jackson had good intentions, and I think his impact in music and his impact on the fans is undeniable. I think growing up, there was always those rumors about, the child pet molestation.
It made you question it.
It made me question it, and you can't ignore that Michael had a very unique personality. I mean, given his status.
Yeah.
But I think as over the years go by, I start to realize that maybe there are people who are caught up in it, especially in the artist field at least. There are artists caught up in the Hollywood movement, and when they try to get out, that's when they are shamed and exiled, and that's when they die, really.
Do you know what I think though? Yeah, when I look at some artists, I think some artists will do that one thing that's expected of them to get into Hollywood, but never do it again. But probably I think if you look at people like Robin Williams, might have had to do something to get in there that he wasn't happy about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Keanu Reeves is someone like that as well, a person who comes off like that to me. Yeah. That he probably did something, an act, we'll put it that way, to get in. And then from there on, it was just pure symbology, all the symbolism and stuff like that they'll carry on doing and stuff like that. But may have not continued in the acts themselves. And I think there's some people in that industry, music or movie industry, that like it, become to love it and continually do it. P. Diddy is probably a clear example of that, but I think with P. Diddy, it was more about power over people, and he loved it, and he loved doing that to people and be able to control people, because that can become addictive as well. Like power is an addiction itself, right? Mm-hmm. But I think with Michaal, I think Michael's been there since he was a kid.
That's the thing. He's a victim of his own success, really.
Yeah, he's been there since a kid. So, we don't know what Michael's been through since he was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's not like he needed to do that, may not have needed that kind of introduction because he was kind of already there.
Already in it, yeah.
From 5 years old, 6 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
So, which must be really hard because then I've watched documentaries about childhood, and I remember when I was a kid, there was a TV series they did, like it was a mini-series, and it showed, the kind of relationship he had with his dad, his brothers, like he would room with his brothers, and his brothers got a bird in the bed and he's hearing them having sex. I mean, you're 5, 6 years old listening to that, like what does that do to you as well? Mm-hmm. But then, even like from a looks point of view, like where people will criticize him about the plastic surgery that he had to get at times, like the nose change and all that sort of stuff. And he did get some plastic surgery, you could tell blatantly, yeah. But a lot of that stems from when I remember him telling a story in an interview once that he had pimples all over his face. So as you do when you're a teen, you have pimples, whatever. He had some real bad. And some girl who asked for his autograph said, "What's wrong with your face?" And it kind of made him paranoid, like, "Oh, I'm ugly." And so Michael's now grown up with this thought that he's ugly. And then when he's become an adult, well, I've got the money, so let me change how I look as well. So I think there's loads of things that have affected Michael over the years. But when it comes to, I've always been like, I remember when I was younger, I was like, what? Michael Jackson did that? Nah.
Yeah, it seems kind of...
And I'm a little, like...
Yeah.
I saw Jackson in the 80s and stuff as well. Like, I was born in 82, so...
Yeah.
I know, like, I've seen the guy throughout his career. But I think at the same time, the more... When I became what we called awakened to what's going on with elites and stuff like that, and what goes on in Hollywood and music industry as well on top of that, and many other areas... I started questioning. I thought, is Michael one of them or is he not? You just didn't know. But I'm glad we're going to do this one because I did a bit of research and obviously you dug it. I'm not going to take the credit for the research because the research has come from real Michael Jackson fans who've really gone deep into try and prove his innocence as well. And then there's some journalists as well. We've got clips of Piers Morgan show with someone on there challenging Piers back about comments about Michael Jackson and stuff like that, and about how mainstream media hadn't done their job properly.
Well, this is the thing.
But-
I think the media, if it's come out on the mainstream media, which it did, you know, it was all on the news and
Yeah.
all of like the Oprah, whatever, all these different mainstream media platforms, you know, your news platforms, they're the ones who are telling us Michael Jackson, these allegations are true. And if everything is a lie that comes out of them, then I'm more inclined to believe that they're lying about that as well. And then when you go onto the more back page kind of channels and platforms, and they're saying, actually, no, Michael Jackson wasn't part of it like that, and he was more trying to expose it or trying to protect kids in a way, then I'm more likely to believe that Michael Jackson was just a victim of that whole circle.
I think it's interesting though. It's the way he died as well, or how he passed on. That the doctor took him out.
Well, that's even more crazy.
He got 3 years in prison for that.
He got released, and he got
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think there's a lot to question, but the thing is, it's the things he was saying at the time that led to his death.
I mean, there's his last concert tour, in it. This is it.
It's not. It was the things he was saying as well. He said he was going to expose the music industry.
Yeah, he said, "This is it. I'm going to say everything.
I'm going to expose all of this,
all of it,
to you guys. What's going on? I'm going to expose everything about Sony, and then suddenly pop." And he was just as he said it, just not too long after he said it, and he was doing "This Is It" tour, whatever you call it, and then bam, he's gone. And I was like, something not right here.
Yeah. And it's crazy as well, because as I said, the media lie about stuff, and the way they sold it was like, oh, Michael Jackson had a drug overdose. No. He was overdosed by his doctor on sleep medication. Like, because obviously when I was young, Michael Jackson died of drug overdose. You're thinking, oh, he overdosed on crack cocaine or something like that. But nah, his doctor overdosed him.
Yeah.
On sleep medication. It's crazy.
It's insane though. But I remember there's other ones as well. Like I remember seeing documentaries years ago that other people have done, and things like I can't remember what hospital it is. It's a hospital in Los Angeles where all the stars go when they're in trouble and stuff like that. And apparently there's a 13th floor that's missing. Yeah, right. Which is really weird, right? That's going deep into the conspiracy side.
There's a lot of places.
But there was a lot of things.
Hotels do that.
There was a period of time where he wouldn't drink any water or eat any food. And he got a close, trusted friend to come over and he rang him up saying that they're trying to kill me. And his mate came over and he was like, he goes, Michael, you need to eat, you need to drink. He goes, no, I'm not going to do it. He goes, they're trying to kill me. There's a level of paranoia that being in Hollywood, people think you're crazy, right? But actually, are they crazy?
No.
Or is it the fact that, you look at the Britney Spears situation where she's like, remember she shaved her head off and stuff like that? And we all thought I thought that was weird. I thought, wow, that's a real drastic reaction to pressure or fame or anything like that. I always think it's weird. But then when you get into it and you start understanding what's going on within those industries, you're like, I can understand it. Like Britney probably thought, I don't want to do this. And then when people say, well, why don't you see Christina Aguilera do that? Because she was pretty hot at the same time as well. And I'm like, well, maybe because Christina Aguilera didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Right? But Britney was like, conscious-wise, she was like, regarding to her conscious, she was like, no, I don't like this. This ain't right. Yeah. And the ones that go nuts are the ones that don't agree with what they're being asked to do.
More recently with Kanye West, I mean, they've been labeling him as crazy and they tried to put him in hospital, medicate him. And he was literally saying, they're going to try and kill me. They're going to try and do... He was worried that they were going to do a Michael Jackson on him.
Yeah.
Like, when you get admitted into hospital at that level, especially when you're exposing or saying things that is against these guys, system, and now you're in a hospital and they're trying to say, you need to take this medication, we need to, put you under... He wasn't sure if he was going to come out of that.
True. But okay, let's get into Michael, yeah? So anyone who doesn't know, you should know, yeah? Everyone from every generation, every era knows Michael, but I'm going to give it a little bit of probably a bio-up and an introduction to Michael. So Michael Jackson, the famous pop star, faced multiple allegations of sexual abuse over the years. Here is a summary of the key allegations and legal actions. 1993 allegation. Accuser, Jordan Chandler, a 13-year-old boy. Jordan's father, Evan Chandler, accused Jackson of molesting his son. The allegation surfaced after Jordan described Jackson's genitalia, which led to a police investigation. Jackson denied the accusations, but settled the case out of court in January 1994 for a reported $15 to $20 million. No criminal charges were filed at the time due to the lack of evidence, as the alleged victim declined to testify. 2003, 2005 allegation, accuser Gavin Arvizo, I think I got his name right there, another 13-year-old boy. The accusations arose after the airing of the document Living with Michael Jackson, where Michael Jackson admitted to sharing his bed with children but denied any wrongdoing. Gavin claimed Jackson had molested him at the Neverland ranch. Trial, Jackson was charged with multiple counts including child molestation, abduction, false imprisonment and extortion. Resolution, the trial began in 2005. It lasted 14 weeks. Jackson was acquitted on all charges in June 2005 after the jury found inconsistencies in the accuser's testimonies and other evidence. 2013 and 2014 allegation, accuser Wade Robson and James Safechuck, which was obviously the Neverland, what was the documentary called again? Leaving Neverland. Yeah. Wade Robson claims that Jackson started abusing him at age 7 in 1990 and continued for 7 years. And James Safechuck said the abuse started when he was age 10 and continued for 4 years. Both men who had previously defended Jackson during the 2005 trial came forward with allegations of abuse in 2013 and 2014, respectively. Robson claimed that Jackson had abused him for 7 years, starting from age 7. Safechuck allegedly abused during the late 1980s and early 90s when he was a child. Legal proceedings. Both cases were initially dismissed due to the statute of limitations, but were later reopened in 2020 following changes in California law extending the time frame for filing such claims. However, the cases face numerous legal challenges. 2019 documentary Leaving Neverland. This documentary featured detailed accounts from Wade Robson and James Safechuck describing the alleged abuse. The film reignited public debate about Jackson's innocence or guilt. So that's pretty much the summary of the story around these allegations for Michael Jackson. Like, you watched it probably years ago, Leaving Neverland, didn't it? Did you ever watch it?
No.
No. So I'll give you my take on what I've seen in Leaving Neverland, right? And I watched it twice. When I first watched it, I was like, damn, Michael, like what, again? Like, kind of thing.
Is there evidence suggesting that?
But then when I rewatched it, I was like, yo, these are all terrible actors, you know? And that's not me saying, oh, because I'm a Michael Jackson man since I was a kid and stuff like that. That's not it. If he's guilty, he's guilty and he should have got dealt with. Yeah. And he deserves whatever he's getting in death right now, right? But if you watch the documentary, it's like you look at the mothers and it felt like to me, the mothers were very much in love with the stardom. Unfortunately, both fathers, I believe, are no longer alive. Wade Robson, who's actually originally from Australia, right? His mum claims that Michael told her to come out to LA and we'll make your son a star kind of thing. When you watch the documentary, I don't think that's the case. I think she either deluded herself in believing that, or she thought, let's just go out there and Michael will help us, which I think is the latter. But what really set it off for me was Wade's father had mental health issues and they all upped and left him. And then later on down the line, he took his own life. And it was just very much the mother, you could tell she was very much about, and then she was like, oh, well, it looks like Michael wasn't going to do anything for us, so I had to make it happen. And I started managing Wade's career and pushing it and driving it and stuff like that. I go, but did Michael actually say to you, come out here and I'll make your son a star? Do you know what I mean? It's just little things around acting. And then even when Wade Robson, and I've seen him in the Oprah interview as well. And whenever he's talking, you know when someone's trying to cry or make it look like they're crying and yet no tears are coming out. I was like, well, you're making it sound like you're crying, even in the documentary, but you're actually not. You're putting on an act right now. And the same with Safechuck. Someone's like, oh, like when you're trying to act like you're really like being hurt and do you know what I mean? You could tell when someone's real and when someone's not real. And I just didn't get the feeling the second time around when I watched it. I was like, yeah, you guys clearly putting on this act, and because there's a guy who's no longer around to defend himself.
Not around to defend himself, but also there's a lot of money involved. I mean, if you're saying in the early days, a payout of 15 to 20 million just to to stop the allegation from blowing up. Doesn't take a genius to see an opportunist.
And that's the thing. I think that's where Michael made the biggest mistake. He should have never paid that first kid off.
Yeah.
But then, I guess at that point, Michael was so famous and probably thought, look, just give them what they want and get rid of them. Get a non-disclosure signed so they can't talk about it again and just leave it at that. And probably expected that it would never happen again. And then naively, it did happen again.
It's always going to happen again. I mean, like...
You give people the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because people are going to think, well, you paid him out, you'll pay me out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is what happened even with like Trump back in the 2016 election. All of a sudden, when Hillary made these accusations and the whole Me Too movement and this and that, like 20 different women just all of a sudden turned up and say, yeah, Trump also did it to me. And then
that's why I don't believe
later
that
down the
Trump.
line,
yeah,
it turned out that these ladies were paid to say that, to discredit Trump in his election campaign. But if in a presidential election campaign, there are opposite forces or these elite evil forces, well, I'm talking like from the Clinton side, which we know is friends with like the Epsteins and whatnot. If they're able to just pay women to make an allegation at a US presidential election, then it's not without reason that these same elites can pay people to go against the biggest artist that might be trying to get out of those kind of circles.
Cool. Let's talk about the impact of the documentary, though. Yeah, the documentary led to widespread media coverage and renewed scrutiny of Jackson's legacy. It also prompted some radio stations and entities to distance themselves from Michael Jackson's music, which I thought was weird because, like, you're going based off if there's a chance we can't play his music. But then for the last few years, he's had how many allegations, and now suddenly you're not going to play their music, which I thought was weird anyway. But so Wade Robson said that when they moved to LA, that he had been replaced by Macaulay Culkin as MJ's new best friend. He felt jealous and hurt by this. Macaulay, I'm just going to go through some of these things first, and then we will show clips and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Macaulay Culkin and Brett Barnes denied any sexual abuse took place with Michael Jackson. So Brett Barnes was one of the other kids that he hung out with and stuff like that.
I mean, the Macaulay Culkin one was one of the reasons why I don't believe that the Michael Jackson allegations, because as a child, watching another child talk in the interview, which I'm sure you'll have to play, and he says straight up, like, guys, Michael Jackson, yes, I slept in his bedroom, but his bedroom's 2 stories big with like 20 bathrooms. Like, it's not as...
It's funny. The kids that didn't accuse him are the ones that said, "No, man, you don't sleep in the bedroom, Michael. Like Michael will pull out a cot for you.
Yeah.
You might. So even if you're sleeping in the same vicinity as each other, Michael will always pull out a cot. And there's been instances where I've heard as well where Michael says, no, the parent, you need to stay in the room as well.
Yeah, the
it's your
parents
child.
are there, yeah. And
So it's like,
Michael says, like, we wake up at like 5 a.m. and we get a hot air balloon. It's nice. It's we're making children's dreams. Why do you guys always have to make it so perverted?
Yeah.
But as a child, listening to another child, in that case, Macaulay Culkin, I think he was probably like a teenager when he did the interview. But I felt the sincerity where he's just like, guys, stop making it a thing that it's not.
It's fine. We've got clips of Aaron Carter as well before he passed as well, talking about Michael as well. Yeah, and he talks about his mum as well. Well, I don't want to ruin it, but we'll go into it a bit. But we've got some good clips as well to go through as well. Wade's mum said there was a new boy every 12 months. Michael Jackson was childlike, and the popular kid picks a new best friend frequently. So, like in school, like if you're the popular kid, you'll pick who your new best friend is every so often, yeah? And I was like, okay, cool. James' mother was upset that after MJ got married to Lisa Marie Presley, he called to say he wouldn't be around as much, and James' mum got off the phone and said to her husband, "We've just been dumped," and it was like a child of hers had left the nest. And it was really weird the way she said it in the documentary as well. So the way she said it was like, "Oh, we've just been dumped," to my husband. I'm like, but it's all like, oh, Michael says he can't come around anymore as much as he wanted because he's blah, blah, blah. Like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, I'm sad. It was more like, you bastard, you're supposed to, do you know what I mean? We're supposed to be your special friends.
Where's the handout?
Do you know what I mean?
Gone.
It was weird. James' mother stated that the home theatre doors were locked and MJ opened them, stating that he didn't know they were locked. The groundsman stated that the doors can only be locked from the outside, and there was a panic hardware to release the door from the inside. So in his home theater, where apparently she said that she went to the one that was locked from the inside, the groundsman said, well, that's BS because you could only lock it from the outside, and there was a release button from inside as well. But she said you could only lock it from inside, and he had it locked when he had her son in the theatre alone. Pretty major detail to get wrong, yeah, which implicates that what you're trying to say is Jackson locked it from the inside, but then did whatever he was doing, apparently that was wrong with her son, and then when she came knocking, he opened the door. So, Wade Robson, so this is an interesting one, right? This is one that really gets me as well, right? So Wade Robson cheated on Michael Jackson's niece with Britney Spears and broke Spears and Timberlake's relationship, and was blackballed in the industry because of this, and couldn't get any more work. At this time, he was at the height of his career as a dance choreographer. James Safechuck was sued by a company for hundreds of thousands of dollars as well, because he started some dance company or something like that. It was actually a scam. So this kind of talks about the integrity of these two individuals. So Wade Robson was basically the top choreographer out there at that time, but then had his fling with Britney Spears and stuff like that, and kind of like that's why he got blackballed in the industry. So now he can't make any money, right? So might give some weight as to why after Michael died, he was going after Michael and saying that, oh. But also it rumored that in his book, Wade Robson's book, he also stated that when Michael died, he said it was time to get mine. In those exact words.
I mean, these are all motives, isn't it?
But he also had with his wife, they still have it, I believe, a foundation or a charity or something like that, where they obviously raise money for kids and kids that have been molested or whatever it is. But apparently none of that money ever goes towards the cause.
Well, this is like with most charities, isn't it?
But it gives more weight to the kind of characteristics of the individual and who they are, right? Like questioning the integrity a little bit.
Yeah.
Aaron Carr, Corey Feldman, and Macaulay Culkin and Brett Barnes defended Michael Jackson. Corey Feldman was abused by high-profile Hollywood moguls. So I remember Corey Feldman, one of my favourite teen actors from back in the day, Lost Boys. If you haven't watched Lost Boys, he's in there, yeah. Evan Chandler closed his dentistry in 1994 and committed suicide in 2009, which is Jordan Chandler's dad. Wade Robson's father committed suicide in 2002. What we're going to go through in a minute is we're going to go through them and read through them, which is the 25 lies of which someone else did the research on Michael Jackson. But what's your thoughts so far on some of that information?
I don't believe Michael Jackson actually was
the monster they're making him out
the monster that they're trying to make him out to be. I see it from a bigger perspective of, if this is what they're telling us, then it's wrong. Because alongside that is the real stuff going on that they're actually hiding. So, okay, you got Neverland Ranch, but then there was Epstein Island, and there's all these other islands and other, hectares of land that other A-listing celebrities are actually doing some evil shit. So if they're now targeting one person, in this case Michael Jackson, to me that's a distraction to the actual real shit that's going on. And the fact that it's on the news and they're trying to highlight this, as I said, look, this stuff does actually happen. We know that. We know that, and we know that it's happening at the highest level with some really high people. I'm not going to say necessarily, but people who run the world, run the countries, high leaders. If they're doing that, and then you have another artist who isn't doing that but is a target for whatever reason, which we will probably go into later. If he's a target, and now the news, and they're using the news outlets to make him the target, make him the enemy of the people. Yeah. To me, it's a false flag. Because I know that there's real shit going on that they're not going to talk about. And so far, and likewise with the people that the allegations are coming out, to me, it sounds like they have a motive to to get a payout almost, or because it is an easy target. If you're gonna, if in the past he's given 15 to 20 million just to shut this whole thing up.
So who's not going to try their luck? Which, and believe it or not, parents will do that to their kids. There's loads of parents out there who will do that to their kids,
obviously,
just to make a buck. But from what I hear as well, Jordan Chandler actually came out and did publicly actually say that Michael didn't do anything to him, which was crazy. I think this was before his dad took his own life, but also once the Michael Jackson trial was over, or once the payout happened, he emancipated from his parents, right? And people, if you don't understand what that means, in America, I don't know if you could do that here, but if you're 14, 15 years old and you no longer want to be under the guardianship of your parents, you can emancipate from them and be free and live your own life, kind of thing. So it's questionable why would you emancipate from your parents? Like, surely you need them right now during this difficult time and these psychological battles you're gonna have to get through. No, like,
yeah,
it's I don't know. Grey area,
right?
You can put it, yeah.
Sounds dodgy though.
To me, it sounds dodgy, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, a child who's going through something probably wants to be in the safety of their parents because that's the safest place for you. Cool. Actually, what we will do is, because there's 25 of them, and I don't want to put them all on screen and have to go through the pain of having to read through each and every one of them. We'll either do it at the end of the video, of the episode, so they'll have them back to back, and you guys can actually just pause and read at your own leisure and take the information in. What I probably would say is that let's just start going into some clips.
Yeah, let's do it.
And start watching some stuff on actually what's been said, what hasn't been said. I think we'll start with the ones that kind of kicked off with Piers Morgan a little bit, and there's a reporter, a journalist who reports it basically says to Piers, you guys didn't do your job properly. So we'll start with that one and then build into the other ones.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Stop lying about me. My only agenda here is to find out what happened. You guys in the media didn't do a good job of that. You bought into a narrative that makes no sense.
Wade Robson in the movie claims that he was abused by Michael Jackson for several days at Neverland while his family was on vacation in the Grand Canyon. Joy Robson has testified not once, but twice, over an extended period of time, under oath, with no incentive to lie, that Wade Robson went with them on that Grand Canyon trip.
We went to the Grand Canyon and came back the following weekend.
And was this, when you say you went to the Grand Canyon, your family went to the Grand Canyon, or Mr. Jackson accompanied you?
No, excuse me, my family. Never. My son has never been to the ranch without me up until this year.
And then in between, you and your kids and your husband and your parents all went on a tourist trip to the Grand Canyon?
Yes.
And I remember really wanting to stay in the room with him.
So I didn't tell him I was coming, and the door was locked. And so you have to knock loud because the movie's on. He didn't mean to lock the door. He didn't know the door was locked. My son doesn't know this. But I would, go to the door, try to listen, hear what conversation was going on, and then I'd sneak away.
Alan Scanlon, an operator from Neverland, confirmed the theater doors are locked from the outside, not the inside, and of Panic Hardware, which makes it impossible for Stephanie Safechuck to have found the door locked.
And the door was locked. And so you have to knock loud because the movie's on.
Boy, Robson.
Thanks for coming. What was your reasoning from coming from Australia, and how did it go? Oh, good.
So I left with Chantal, who was 12, and Wade was just about to turn 9. Wow. And I thought we'd be superstars within a year, and 8 years later, we were still trying to pay rent.
I don't know how much better you can get than working with Michael Jackson.
Well, we didn't work with him a lot. Wade did 3 music videos. Oh, yeah, they don't pay a whole lot. It doesn't really pay the rent.
And you come out to Los Angeles.
Yeah, and I realized very early on that if we were going to make it here, that it was going to be up to me. We couldn't really rely. Michael had lived in a bubble and had a different reality.
Right.
So I was the one who had to find agents. My kids worked every weekend, every school vacation.
So in 2011, Joy Robson did an interview on a radio station here in Los Angeles. She says a lot of things that are directly in contradiction to her son's current narrative. She acknowledges that Michael Jackson and Wade didn't really spend that much time together. She also seems to indicate that they didn't come to this country until Wade was 9 years old, which is a problem because Wade says that the abuse starts at 7 years old.
7.
Also, the intense period of Wade's, sexual relationship was from the age of 7 to the age of 9. That was when they were really seeing each other a lot.
Now, here's why this is all important. So I tweet out a link to that video on YouTube. All of a sudden, within 24 hours, maybe less than that, poof, gone from YouTube.
So I remember being shocked when the first place we went to live was like an Oakwood Apartments, which is kind of like a part-time residence sort of thing. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. He was doing things like disappearing in the night and going on walks and catching buses, and we'd have to find him. I mean, I think it terrified me, but my reaction to it was just to get angry. And I just wanted him to go.
The parents were starstruck.
Yeah.
They were saying they were starstruck. And, one woman which was Wade's mom was saying, she left her husband. I mean, he pretty much hung himself because she left with her kids and moved from Australia over here. And the husband was like, are you crazy? And she at the time said, no, she thought she was doing what was best for her family. But when she looks back on it, she realizes that she was starstruck.
He was doing a photo shoot, a campaign for his new shoes for LA Gear.
So my uncle introduced us. My uncle had already known Wade and his family.
Okay.
And Wade had developed a crush on me.
Okay.
So I'll briefly explain.
Yes.
He and I met in 1991, approximately. We had done, an LA Gear photo shoot,
Right.
as well as the black or white video.
Yeah.
We had done those together. And he started to develop a little crush. So he asked my uncle if he could maybe set up a situation where we could get to know each other better.
And how old were you then?
Approximately 9 or 10.
Okay.
He and I were both born in 82. So from that point on is when we started dating. But again, let me stress that it was a very age-appropriate relationship. It wasn't like we were having this sexual relationship at, 11, 12 years old. That, progressed later through our relationship.
So how long were you guys together?
Approximately 9 years or so. We broke up around 2000 or 2001, something to that.
So while you were teenagers, through your teen years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so in a rational world, if what they were saying is true, if Michael was really brazenly abusing Wade Robson for 7 years, and then setting him up with his own niece in the midst of this, I mean, if we're talking that level of depravity, then there should be dozens of people coming forward and saying, "Give me my millions." And yet that hasn't happened, which I think, again,
part of at the train station, there's a room upstairs, and we would have sex up there too. It would happen every day. It sounds sick, but it's kind of like when you're first dating somebody, right? And you do a lot of it. So it was very much like that.
Thanks for your time. Look, have a few dates just been mixed up, or do you reckon James and Wade are lying about it all?
I can't say for sure that James, Safechuck and Wade Robson are lying about the entire thing. I can't say that for sure, but what I can say is that at least 3 aspects of the allegations that are featured in that documentary are provably untrue. We've heard a couple of the bits that you've mentioned, the train station one with James Safechuck being the big one. Obviously, he alleges that the abuse went from 1988 to 1992, and it can actually be proven that, well, he said during the documentary that he was abused at the Neverland train station. He went into great detail about how it happened in a room upstairs in that train station. It wasn't just a fleeting comment in that documentary. It was a big part of it, and it can be now proven through documents, through photos, that that train station didn't open until mid-1994. So that's a real 2-year discrepancy there, and it's not just a case of dates being mixed up. Michael Jackson spent the whole year of 1994 living in New York City to get away from Santa Barbara because of the allegations and the DA going after him, and also to record an album in New York. He moved there because of an earthquake as well. He was a bit scared to record in the LA area, but the point is that by the time Safechuck would have been at Neverland again, he would have been 17 or 18 years old. So that changes the entire narrative that film is trying to give us, that Jackson, lost interest in young boys when they hit puberty, and of course that Safechuck himself said that the abuse ended when he was 14.
Mind that the age that all of that Michael routinely lost interest in the little boys that he saw, the age that he lost interest was around 14, 15.
Yeah.
So
it changes the entire narrative of that whole documentary. It's a big deal.
Yeah, when you hear these things about dates not lining up, then there is a bit of doubt that creeps into your mind about what the story is here in these historical cases. The documentary's director, Dan Reed, pretty quickly admitted the mistake with the dates. Did that surprise you that he didn't put up more of a fight on this?
It's undeniable. He can't deny that there's a big discrepancy there. So of course he had no option but to agree that the dates were wrong.
You wrote the biography of Michael Jackson. Did you come across any evidence of sexual abuse?
I didn't know, and I've never come across anything that would make me believe that he did these things. I can't say for sure that he's innocent, of course, and I've certainly never seen any cold hard evidence to suggest that he's ever done anything like that throughout the years.
Brett Barnes has stated Michael Jackson has never done anything inappropriate to him, and has threatened HBO with a lawsuit, asking them to remove his name from the documentary as a victim.
And he was known to spend a lot of time with children, some famous. They have, throughout the years, denied any sexual abuse took place. Did you walk into this project objectively, or did you walk in already believing these two gentlemen?
When you look at this in totality, the emphatic denials from so many other people about this mean that there is a question mark here. You've got other boys like Macaulay Culkin, Corey Feldman has come out strongly yesterday. And Corey Feldman made the, I think, quite interesting point. He said, look, serial paedophiles, when they're around young boys, in this case, they'd abuse them all. That historically, that was people, if they had access to young boys, they'd do it. Corey Feldman and Macaulay Culkin tell a completely different story.
And he was so convincing. Absolutely not. He has never, ever done anything. Never. Because we were so close with Michael, obviously, I wanted to believe that, but more than anything, I believed my son.
Did you go into Mr. Jackson's room at all hour of the day?
At any time I wanted to, yes.
Do you recall being in his room during the day?
Yes.
Do you recall being in his room during the evening?
Yes.
Do you recall being in Mr. Jackson's room late at night?
Yes.
Did you ever get the feeling that somebody was trying to keep you out of Mr. Jackson's room?
No.
I believed that he would have told me had something happened. I said, to me, no amount of money would make that okay. If I thought that he had touched my son, I would not stop till he was behind bars.
How did you feel when you heard that a boy was alleging that Michael had abused him?
I was shocked too, and I think it's sick, because I know Michael well enough that he wouldn't do anything like that. I know that for a fact.
Did Mr. Jackson ever molest you at any time? The defense lawyer asked. No, never, Wade Robson replied. That contradicts testimony from a former Michael Jackson maid.
The credibility of Adrienne McManus has been questioned because of her changing account of what she saw at Neverland. Sworn evidence she gave in 1993 that she never saw any inappropriate behaviour by Jackson towards any child.
At Michael Jackson's trial, you were found to have lied under oath.
From 1990 to 1994, she was his housemaid, with intimate access to the inner sanctum of the most famous person on earth. When she left in 1994, she and 4 other employees sued the singer for wrongful termination and lost.
Do you still owe the Jackson estate money?
I probably do, but...
You must know the amount.
Well, I know that I can't remember. It might have been...
You were ordered to pay legal fees initially?
Yeah, for breach of contract, for suing Mr. Jackson.
Which was what, 1.6 million?
It was probably, yeah.
Just to refresh your memory.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
All of a sudden, Michael and Jordy were gone. They had gone in one of his bathrooms, and the door was closed. I used to be the boy who was in there with Michael. And I just knew in my gut that that's what they were doing when they were disappearing. They were doing all of that same sexual stuff.
Evan Chandler, Jordan Chandler's father, filed a $30 million civil lawsuit against Michael Jackson on the 14th of September 1993. In the lawsuit, his alleged outline of abuse was in no way the same claimed by Wade Robson. He had also claimed nothing ever happened at Neverland.
They were disappearing. They were doing all of that same sexual stuff.
Meanwhile, CBS obtained a secretly taped phone conversation allegedly between the father of the boy who accused Jackson of sexual abuse and the boy's stepfather. Listen to this.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen to him. Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want. They will be destroyed forever.
He had no interest in testifying against Jackson. Jordan Chandler advised that he would legally fight any attempt to do so.
You've got to look very carefully at people's motives, and you've got to look very carefully at the facts. You've got the most famous person in the world, one of the wealthiest people in the world, perceived as very vulnerable, okay? And people constantly tried to exploit him throughout his lifetime.
For lawyer Tom Mesereau, so much of what was aimed at Michael Jackson was about cold, hard cash.
You don't think the freedom of the Me Too movement could be explained for these latest accusers coming up and saying that Michael Jackson molested them?
I think the freedom of the Me Too movement has allowed false accusations to be made as well as real accusations. And we've got to be very careful to make sure we sift out what's real and what's false.
What was decade-long FBI surveillance? Trust and believe if there was something there to be found, they would have moved on it, it's my belief.
And it would have leaked.
Yeah.
And that was the first I've heard. I didn't even know. What year was that?
That was, first of all, in 2009, the FBI released their Michael Jackson FBI file. If you go to vault.fbi.gov, you will actually see the FBI files there on Michael Jackson. And so
soon it will be Jackson's turn himself to respond to questions. The teen said that when they traveled together to Monaco last May, quote, that's when the whole thing really got out of hand. Also included was a deposition of former Jackson maid Blanca Francia, who claims that at Jackson's Neverland Ranch to have seen Jackson naked with young boys on several occasions.
What did you see?
I just saw the shadow.
You saw the shadow of what you believe was Michael Jackson?
Yes.
You never saw him, did you?
No.
You saw the shadow of what you thought was a man, right?
Yes.
Did you see any other shadow at that point?
No.
Was the glass foggy?
Yeah.
So you couldn't really see clearly the glass, right? You just saw a figure. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
You only saw one figure at that point.
Yes.
We
wanted to buy another house, and Michael gave us a loan at a very low percentage rate. My husband had already had a deposition. We were on Michael's camp. My son also, for Michael. And after that was all said and done is when Michael forgave the debt. Michael said, no, I don't want you to pay me anymore. It's a gift. So he did buy us a house. It's just coincidental. He wasn't buying us off, but the timing's right there. Just sounds bad. Yeah. My husband had already had a deposition. We were on Michael's camp. And after that was all said and done is when Michael forgave the debt.
Like the public knows how many children were there. And then there's all the children that we don't know about.
We grew up with him literally since he was 3 and I was 5.
He was just Michael. He was just our friend.
Just like hang out.
Yeah, he'd hang out just like this.
I hung out with Michael Jackson. I stayed at his house. You don't think that for the interviews that they're doing, they're not getting paid? I've been offered 6 figures already for an interview. Our own personal experience with him was gentle and beautiful.
He's a good friend of mine, and he still is.
Your brother knew him too?
Yeah, no, we all did.
And he'd bring my sister and I on stage. Always loved him so much.
We just had the best times.
How did you meet him?
We ended up staying in touch for like many years after.
He invited myself and my family to go to the ranch. Wow. He was a great friend.
You know, he just treated me like gold.
The experience that we had with him was one of, love.
Continued to be friends with him for about a decade. The great times we had here. And
happy to have been his friend.
I would say he was even greater as a person.
One of the most important people in my life.
I grew up, I spent my whole life.
In 1993, when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information, but they were scanning Michael Jackson. All they cared about was trying to find something on Michael Jackson.
Who you said, by the way, did not abuse you.
Who Michael was innocent, and that was what the interview was about with the police in 1993. I told them he is not that guy, and they said, well, maybe you just don't understand your friend. And I said, no, I know the difference between pedophiles and somebody who's not a pedophile because I've been molested. Here's the names. Go investigate.
And then there's all the children that we don't know about.
All you got to do is burn one bridge. Okay, well, let's be real. He cheated on my sister with Britney Spears. Okay.
Broke up Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, broke up just, okay. Now, let's be real. You f***ed over 2 big people in the industry. That's not including the caboose that is attached to them from managers, executives, business people. So when he burnt those bridges, he didn't just burn the bridge, he blew out the foundation. So now you got no work. He got 8 black balls served into every corner on his pool table. You can't get work. You can't do shit. Your dance moves are whack. Let's not be funny.
In 2013, Safechuck is sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, we have not been able to figure out how exactly that lawsuit got resolved, but we know it was for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was here in Southern California. We know the company that sued him. But here we have, voila, not by coincidence, I think, a huge incentive. And then in 2014, I suddenly joined the lawsuit with Wade Robson against Michael Jackson for millions of dollars. Coincidence?
So, safe to say there's quite a bit of information there, all right, which would point in the direction that these 2 dudes, Safechuck and Wade Robson, would definitely like, all right?
Well, I mean, exactly. There's so much. They've so many inconsistencies with their stories. And then in addition, you've also got all the people who are saying that it's not true. And I think one of the key things that I picked up on was, look, we know that this stuff actually does happen within the elites. But then if they wanted to keep it under wraps, they would keep it under wraps.
Exactly.
The fact that it's become a whole thing.
Because think about how much Michael brought in. He brought in billions. Like he was worth billions.
Billions, yeah. If he wanted to keep it under wraps, they would have, just like how all the other elites are doing. But the fact that it's now blown up out of proportion and it's now on the mainstream media and it's in the press and journalists are, and interviews are going for 6 figures. To me, that's already red flags. That's.
Do you know what I always say though? Right, when these guys are right, so let's look at the Diddy situation. Right now, there's loads of evidence that Diddy's done what he's done. Right, because it's coming out in court now. Right, but the only reasons the elites will hang him out to dry is because he's done something that's basically pissed them off.
Yeah, there's too much evidence for Diddy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the only reason they will allow that to come out is because they want to get rid of him out of that position, because you know what? You're pissing us off.
It's sacrificial almost.
There's something you're doing that's wound us up.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna sacrifice you now.
Yeah. And it's also a distraction to...
So we can't say it doesn't happen, but I don't believe in this instance, Michael, I don't think he's guilty at all. I think there's enough people there, Coley Culkin, Brett Barnes, the other kids who were very close to Michael and clearly were around the other kids. And so he did mix them together. He didn't keep them all apart from each other or anything like that, like a normal PDF file would do. He didn't do any of that. They actually mingled with each other. They chilled out with each other. The lads all got together and spent time with Michael together. So that for me is another alarm bell. Like you said that he kept you guys apart from each other when actually he kept you together. But you also yourself confirmed you saw him going in a room with Jordan Chandler, which means you were in there socializing with him. You had to be.
Yeah.
So which is it? Is it were they kept separate or were you mingling together? And I just think things like that are all red flags. There's inconsistencies in, like you said, in the storytelling.
And that means they're lying, in my opinion.
Yeah. Straight up. I think the fact that for Wade Robson, who was literally the top choreographer at a time, that's why he was working with the likes of Britney Spears. I think for him, slept with Britney, broke up Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, who were the hottest young couple at the time. So that was worth a lot of money to the industry, first of all. So you've pissed someone off there. But then on top of that, you've pissed Michael Jackson, who's probably the most powerful person in the music industry because you cheated on his niece he introduced you to. Now you've been blackballed, like that guy said. Well, I think that was actually Michael's nephew, I believe. He's right, you blackballed yourself. You've been blackballed by the industry. You can't make any money now. You can't make your millions anymore. So you think now, oh shit, I'm broke. What am I going to do? Oh, Michael's dead. Let me put out some bullshit allegations and get some money out of it. That's how it feels like to me. And Safechuck at the end you saw was in some sort of debt. He'd been sued for hundreds of thousands or fined or whatever it was. He was in some sort of financial peril as well. Oh, perfect timing. Let me put an accusation against Michael and get some money. That's how it looks like to me, man. There's way too many inconsistencies. I mean, we saw about the Neverland Ranch didn't exist during one of the time frame when Safechuck said he was abused.
With the train station.
Yeah. But the other one was Wade Robson's mum says they didn't move to America to 11, but yet he said it started at 9 when he was 9 years. So how could that be if you were still in Australia? There's loads of things that just don't add up, in my opinion, But I'm just going to read quickly what the estate's response is. So Michael Jackson's estate's response to these allegations. Denial. Jackson's estate has consistently denied all allegations of sexual abuse, citing the 2005 acquittal and questioning the credibility of accusers. Legal actions. The state filed a lawsuit against HBO, the network that aired Leaving Neverland, claiming it violated a non-disparagement clause from the 92 contract. This lawsuit is ongoing. So, I mean, pretty confident for them to turn around and say, hey, you know what? You ain't got shit. We're going to come after you. So, I just feel like, I think it's all bullshit.
I think it's bullshit.
I personally think Michael Jackson was way too powerful and stuff like that. And we've talked about how Michael died and stuff like that and circumstances leading to his death and stuff. I'm not going to read through all the other stuff that I've got here.
And it's the impact he was making as well. I think, we know what the agenda is and division is.
Do you know what I would say to him? Do you know what I would say to everyone? Right? Okay, we might play a few more clips as well because I've got more clips. But
what I would say to everyone is think of it this way, right? And I'm going to play Charlemagne the God from the Breakfast Club in a bit as well, what he said, yeah? Right, and I agree with everything he says. When you're the most powerful man in the music industry, right? But also, don't forget, at his peak, Michael was the most influential individual on the face of the planet.
At all time, yeah.
Yeah? If someone in the world could bring people together, black, white, brown, Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, Christian, Jew, whatever, that's a person who could do that. Like, literally turn around and say, look, you guys, you need to... If someone who could talk to the people and be a bit of a leader in that sense, it would have been Michael Jackson.
And it was I had a guy tell me, and he's quite a high level person, but he was saying, I had to ask him the question about, who's bigger, Michael Jackson or the Beatles?
Yeah.
And he pointed out that Michael Jackson at its peak is arguably the biggest. We're talking about a time where racism was still prominent. Michael Jackson was probably the first black person to be in a white girl's bedroom and the fathers be kind of like okay with it.
Yeah.
To have a poster of a black man in middle America was not a thing.
Yeah.
But Michael Jackson broke that barrier, and him being the biggest artist that, as you said, is going to maybe unify races. And then obviously in his later years when he made songs like They Don't Care About Us and Earth Song, where he's talking about pollution, you don't get
even a song like Black and White as well, remember?
Black and White, yeah, it don't matter if you're black or white.
Yeah.
And then the Earth Song, what have we done to the world? And then They Don't Care About Us, which is I think one of the last songs he actually put out. Who's they? And as you said, when you have someone so influential,
when you look at the lyrics of that song, when you go actually listen to the lyrics, I'm not going to repeat them, but kick me, kill me, and then he was talking about all this other stuff, and he was like, you're like, damn, Michael was deep with his message.
He was deep. Yeah, he was deep. And, he went over to the favelas to kind of unite and boost that area up, that area being one of the most poverty-stricken places in the world. He had the power. And that's not to say that there aren't other people with power, but the question is, what are these people with power doing? And maybe they're not with good intentions. And we know they're not.
We know they're not.
But for those listening.
But what I'm saying is, like, he had all that influence, everything that obviously you just said. And the elites cannot have someone like that with all that power, all that influence, to bring about the kind of change they don't want to see. Yeah, we talk about it on this channel a lot, right? Okay. We talk a lot about on our podcast about the elite's agenda to want to control us, divide us, bring in so many things that they're currently trying to bring in right now, CBDCs, digital IDs, biometrics, all that sort of stuff to control us, own us outright. Yeah, so you can never be wealthy, you can never reach, you can never build for your future generations and stuff like that, right? Yeah, but they want people at each other's throats as well, right? Because that's how you bring about that plan. Now, someone like Michael's around, who's saying, and remember what we said, at the end of his final moments, what was he doing? He says, I'm going to expose the music industry. I'm going to expose Sony. I'm going to expose everything to you. Watch, it's time. I've had enough. I'm not going to be quiet and silent anymore. I'm going to take them on. This is it. And unfortunately, what happened, didn't it? He was murdered. Let's be honest. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. And taken out. So I don't personally think Michael Jackson did any of that shit.
It was an assassination.
There's too many.
You look at all the other people who've been assassinated. There's the same story.
This was all an attempt to try and control him, and they still couldn't control him because he was like, "No, you're not going to stop me." Do you know what I mean? He was defiant to the end. I think he was defiant to the end. And in the end, they were like, "All right, now he's going to expose us properly. All right, we just get rid of him."
That's the thing. He became uncontrollable.
But at the same time, I think they also wanted to own all his intellectual
that's another dark
so all his
side
music, all his the amount of money it was all worth as well.
He's still making money, but he's dead, and so who's getting paid? And it's
the record company, innit?
Record company, the labels, and that's such a scam.
But I'm going to play a clip from old Charlemagne, whatever his name is, the God, whatever his name is, and I think this clip really sums it up when it comes to Michael Jackson.
There's only one person I believe in Hollywood who people conspired to actually take down. I think that there's one person who they really took down because he had too much power, and I believe that person was Michael Jackson. The reason I believe that is because you can look into the story. You know, we had Deion Cole on Breakfast Club today. Deion Cole told us a story about how he got high with Paul McCartney, and Paul McCartney told him, Paul was telling Michael, like, yo, you got to get your business together. You got to get your business right. He told him about the publishing game.
He bought the Beatles publishing.
Michael ended up getting so big that he bought the Beatles publishing. The Beatles publishing was worth so much that literally Sony gave Michael Jackson half of their publishing company just to own the Beatles catalog. So whenever you used to see Sony ATV, that was Sony, and ATV was Michael Jackson's publishing company, right? Imagine how powerful a man is when he owns half of the, or majority of the music industry's publishing. And in some cases was even giving publishing back to some of the artists. Gave Little Richard his publishing back. I don't know how many people he did that to. Michael Jackson had too much power in the music industry, had too much control over the most valuable asset in music with people's publishing, and I believe they had to take him out because of it.
I mean, I think he says it perfectly.
Yeah, says everything.
Like everything we've already kind of like gone into, and I think there's loads of people out there who really winds me up. They still say, "Yeah, Michael's this, Michael's that." And I feel like saying, "No, like I think you lot need to go and do your freaking research."
But this is the thing; these are the people that will hear it on the news and form their opinion, go with it, and that was the intention with all these news articles and this news release, was to put out a story. And the people who won't do the research will just believe that, and therefore tarnished Michael Jackson's name. I think, you know, when back to that mate that kind of spoke about who's bigger, Michael Jackson or the Beatles, and he said Michael Jackson probably peaked higher, but the Beatles will always be bigger because of the tarnish that they put on Michael Jackson's name. Whereas the Beatles will always resurge every 10 years or so, a documentary.
Well, think of it this way, right?
Michael's.
If you want to talk about Beatles, let's talk about John Lennon, yeah? Right? John Lennon came out and turned around and publicly said the world is run by psychopaths.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not just talking about your politicians. I'm talking about wealthy people who are psychopaths. I remember seeing that speech of his. Not long after that,
taken out.
John Lennon was gone. He was taken out. So it just shows you the ones that speak out and tell you the truth are the ones that they take out.
Always. Throughout history. Assassination. Yeah. And
well, they tried to discredit. I think that's what they tried to do with Michael first. Discredit him, so people wouldn't believe a single word that comes out of his mouth, but still be able to, because he had such a die-hard fan base still that supported him. We can now control and still make money off this guy and get him to do what we need him to do. But in actual fact, that wasn't the case. It backfired massively on them, and in the end, they had to take him out.
Andrew Tate says it best, like, when you're going up against these psychopaths, they give you 3 lives.
Yeah.
First is they'll try to censor you.
Yeah.
Which you can't really censor Michael Jackson. He's the biggest artist. You know, he has his own record label and he owns the whole music industry, so you can't really censor him. Then they'll try and discredit you and get you locked up for a crime you didn't commit.
Yeah.
All these allegations, you know, the PDF stuff that we're talking about in this, or debunking, should I say. So once they can't do that, then you're on your third life, which is, well, okay, we take you out. And evidently they did.
Cool. What's the clip? I was just thinking about a clip that we're going to play now. Which one was I going to play? I think I've got one. Hold on. Of actually Michael at the end, where he's kind of talking to the fans about how he's going to expose the industry and stuff. We'll play that clip next.
You know, let me just say this. The tradition of great performers from, and I really want you to hear what I have to say. The tradition of great performers from Sammy Davis Jr. to James Brown to Jackie Wilson to Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. The story is usually the same though, you know, these guys work really hard at their craft, but the story ends the same. They usually are broken, torn, and usually just sad, and the story is very sad in the end, because the companies take advantage of them. They really do. And Sony Sony, being the artist that I am, at Sony, I generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion, and they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing, and it usually is, but they never thought that this performer myself would outthink them.
Yeah!
And Tommy Mottola is a devil.
Respect!
I own half of Sony's publishing, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it. But I just did good business, you know. The way they get revenge is to try and destroy my album. But I've always said, you know, good art never dies.
So those were like essentially his final words.
Says it straight up as well. It's
like,
raw.
It's just like, you know, calling Tony Mottola, who's a Sony executive or CEO, whatever he is of Sony Music, and saying you're the devil, and saying that
straight up in it.
I actually outthought all of you lot. You didn't think it was possible, and I did. And now because I'm leaving you, you're even more upset because now you're not going to own my music anymore because it comes with me because he owned everything. So there's a lot of things in there that were going on which people aren't paying attention to. But then I suppose when you're a normie and you think, you know, you believe everything that you believe every little thing that you read in the history books and or what you were taught in school and things like that, then naturally you're just going to go along with the narrative that what they put out in the media. Why would the media lie about it?
Yeah.
But not realizing that these are powerful people who control the media, who control all aspects of that entertainment, news, media industry, and have a lot of power. And if they want to put a lie out about you and sell it, they can. In a nutshell. I think I've got about a couple of more clips I probably want to go through. What I'll do is play actually Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
I just watched a lot of things about him. I think, you know, somebody once reflected and said, you know, what Michael went through as a child, he had to grow up so fast that he related to what you went through as a child. And I think in a way he was trying to protect you.
Yeah.
I mean, and I got something that was kind of profound. Did you feel that's true?
He reached out to me because a lot of things were happening, like, you know, big and fast with me. And I think he identified with that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost easy to try to say, oh, it was like weird or whatever. But it wasn't, because it made sense. Like we were legitimate. Like, here's the thing, at the end of the day, we were friends in the most simple.
And he was a child in many ways too. He didn't,
but also like we were just like, it's like one of my friendships that people question only because of the fact that he was the most famous person in the world. Like, like I'm friends, we're friendly, you know what I mean? And the more people wouldn't question that because we're friends.
Because we're in the same age.
You don't have to explain that also. You don't have to explain your friendships to people. Like, I mean, seriously, how many friendships have you had to really explain to people?
Not many.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like...
I think maybe, do you think the age gap is probably why they question?
Yeah,
why would an older man, but only you would know.
Because what I said in the very beginning is that I was a peerless person. I was like, nobody else in my Catholic school even had like this much idea of what I was going through, or what he was the kind of person who'd been through the exact same freaking thing and wanted to make sure that I wasn't alone in that kind of,
Was he fun?
He was fucking awesome. He was hilarious. He was sweet, and people didn't know how funny he fucking was.
See, I envy you that. I envy you.
He liked prank calling people. He actually was really good with his voice, obviously.
Michael Jackson would prank call, and with you, you'd call some people. Yep. What would he say?
He always, I can't do his voices because obviously he was good with his voice. But he'd go like, no. He's like, how are you? And he's like, I'm good. Like, hi, do you have any mattresses in your mattress store? And he'd and it was like, and he could do a really good, he was fucking hilarious. He was charming, fucking funny, silly, and here's the thing is that, again, it goes back to something else I was saying, was that I really didn't actually give a shit about famous people because I was thoroughly unimpressed by them. So when I first met him, I'm like, okay, cool, you're just that guy. You're like, oh, that guy who sings songs. Like, cool.
Great.
Like, yeah, I sing songs in school. That's great. So anyway, like, you know, like,
But can I hang out with you? Probably not.
Yeah. So,
right?
yeah, I think that's one of the reasons also why we got along is that, like, everyone's always thoroughly impressed by him. And so the fact there was somebody who was kind of just like treated him like a normal person, who was kind of just like, yeah, like it was that simple. Was that like,
he seems like a very, like the most generous person.
yeah,
too.
he was generous. He was gentle.
Do you still have any gifts that he might have given you?
Probably somewhere in the back of my house, you know, but yeah, look. Yeah,
give you a birthday gift. Happy birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, that's what I mean. For me, it's so normal and mundane. Like, you know, I know it's a big deal to everyone else, but like for me, it's like, yeah, it was a normal, like, you know, it was a normal friendship.
So that was Macaulay Culkin, but we're going to play Aaron Carter in a bit as well. But Macaulay Culkin clearly stating he was my mate. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, to the outside world, it looked weird, a grown man with a kid being close friends with a kid, but he understood what I was going through because he already been through it. And that's why, so it wasn't weird.
But this is the thing, you can't compare with normies or with normal people. When
to normal people, it's weird, yeah.
Normal people, it's weird, I get that. But this is not normal people.
Yeah, like Michael Jackson's been in the industry since he was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Macaulay Culkin started young as well. Like, naturally, he's going to look at it and think, well, yo, this kid's going to have problems. I know it. It's going to happen.
He's going to go through similar stuff.
Yeah. And he connects better with them as well, because how many people can really say they've got shared experience, like life experience, as Michael is?
Exactly.
He's on another level. Do you know what I mean? He's in the stratosphere, for crying out loud. Like,
literally.
And we're all living down on ground level.
Yeah.
So naturally, for a normie, everyday person, like I said, you're comparing your life and your world to Michael Jackson's, where Michael Jackson's nowhere in your world.
Different.
It's a different world altogether. Like I said, he's in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
So, but we'll play Aaron Carter now. This one was really interesting, and this one I was just like, yeah, definitely Michael didn't do shit. Yeah.
Go on.
Bro said that, you know, once he got to know Michael and he was working on his case, Michael said that his biggest regret was settling that first
Sheraton Hotel at Universal over here. There's 4 FBI agents waiting for me in the hotel room. And my mom's there and she's like, tell them what happened. And I'm like, what do you mean tell them what happened? And I sit down with them and they all ask these super sexually exploiting, you know, questions, back-sided questions. And I knew that at my age already. And I looked at all 4 of them and I said, are y'all crazy? I said, what you think I'm gonna do? Tell you that Michael did something bad so that we can sue him for money? That's what I told him. I was like, you're crazy. And I looked over at my mom and I was like, are you serious, Mom? I was like, what is going on here? Why are you letting this happen? And she goes, well, I think something happened, you know, I think something. I'm like, really? That man did nothing but be hospitable, kind, loving, giving, everything you could think of. We rode 4-wheelers for 5 hours, me, him, and Chris Tucker in the mountains at nighttime after his birthday party. Him and I hung out and talked pretty much all night. Got a couple hours of sleep. I wake up, he's not even in the room. He pulled out a cot for me in his room because I asked him, I was like, I want to hang out with you. I want to be around. You know, it was Michael. Yeah. You know, I want to hang out with Michael. I wanted to hang out with Michael. He pulled out a little cot or something. I laid on the cot. I wake up in the morning. His bed's made. There's a Queenie lady that wakes me up. I keep asking, where's Michael? I go over. He's got this huge statue figurine that Michael Jordan sent him for his birthday because he collected that stuff. Went and smoked some weed with him. Get in the car. And then all this shit happened when I got back to LA. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I was like, and I looked at my mom. I go, are you really trying to go at Michael and use me for a money grab? I was like, nothing. And I looked at him right now. I said, nothing happened. I said, Michael was flirting with girls right in front of me. Actually.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious because he was very charming.
I bet. It's Michael Jackson.
he made girls just light up, blush. And and like, I saw him looking at girls' booty. I said, I saw you looking at her booty. He was like, I was like, and so I hear these stories of like Wade Robson, and then I'm like thinking to myself, wait, hold up. I know Wade Robson. Wade Robson pretended to be the voice on my album, Aaron's Party, for my brother.
because my brother didn't do it, so Wade Robson did it. It was like a little spoof thing, an interlude in my second album, Aaron's Party, and Wade Robson did the voice of like pretending to be my brother or some shit. And I'm like, wait, hold up, Wade leaving Neverland? What is this? Like, what do you mean leaving Neverland? Like, I left Neverland. Everything was cool, homie. Like, what's your problem? Did you dream this up? Did your parents tell you to do this?
Yeah, I mean, they tried to sue for like $100 million, and ultimately it was dropped. They got nothing out of it, as they should.
Nothing. That dude didn't do shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, I knew Michael better than all of them.
Yeah, I believe
even,
everything
even
that I've
Macaulay,
seen.
If it was Macaulay right now,
I'm not buying it.
Even if it was
I'm not
Macaulay Culkin sitting right here, he would tell you the same thing I did with the same assertiveness.
So another individual who's literally telling us nothing ever happened. And I remember Aaron Carter when he was a kid, it was corny as fuck. Yeah, his music, but he was one of those child pop, did white little kid doing rapping and all that sort of stuff. It was appealing to, I suppose, white America, like young kids and stuff. It was corny to me, but another person is saying nothing happened.
The double standards.
Yeah.
How you get one interview saying it happened and everybody's going to say, yeah, it happened. And then you get another interview where a guy is being, to me, as genuine as can be, saying it didn't happen, but nobody wants to hear that. So you can't pick and choose which truth you want if both people are saying opposite stuff.
Yeah. I just think, it just adds more to the bullshit. Now, I'm going to play a clip, and I can't remember what this clip was, because remember, I got all this stuff together a long time ago, but there's a clip, I think, where there's a lawyer talking about Safechuck's claim. But we'll play it, and then we'll chop it up, yeah?
Motions in limine are to prevent things coming in that are irrelevant. Safechuck, there was a declaration filed, I think, sometime in 93 or 94, 95, whatever, somehow in connection with the Jordy Chandler matter. And Safechuck had signed a declaration saying that, yeah, nothing happened. Michael never did anything, blah, blah, blah. He no longer had contact with Michael. And so Safechuck, for purposes of the trial, was what we would call a non-entity. Nothing, the judge had already ruled, nothing regarding Safechuck was going to be allowed. Nothing was going to be discussed. No evidence one way or the other was going to be brought in. Safechuck, for purposes of this trial, didn't exist, plain and simple. So when I hear these stories that Evie Tavashi, who was Michael's personal assistant for 20 some odd years, was calling Safechuck repeatedly and begging him to testify, it's not even absurdity, the stupidity of that comment is beyond belief, simply based on the fact that it's not up to Evie Tavashi to decide who's going to testify. It wasn't even up to Tom. It wasn't even up to Snedden at that point. At that point, the judge had already long since ruled, well over 7-8 months before, that Safechuck was a non-entity. Have a nice day.
So Safechuck was not even a part of the trial.
Had absolutely nothing to do with it at all, other than maybe whether or not he was watching it on TV. That's as close as he got to it. And that I couldn't answer. He was never, ever, 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 ever an entity. As far as him.
So if you're wondering what that was all about, basically Safechuck back in 1993 signed a declaration saying that he was not touched, he was not abused, he was not molested, nothing ever happened, etc., etc. He signed a declaration, I'm guessing his parents would have had to sign the same thing as well, stating that Michael did nothing to him. All right. So later on down the line, where there were other accusations and trials and all that stuff, he could not be called as a witness because he signed a declaration saying that nothing had happened to him. So the judge said, well, there's no point, he's not an entity, he's a non-entity, because if you bring him forward, he's just going to repeat what he said in his declaration because he's signed to say this is the truth. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So you're going to bring a kid to say the same thing again. You can just use his statement or his declaration as evidence. So they could not, I remember I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just reading into what they're saying and trying to understand it. But then years later, you're now saying you were abused, et cetera, and all that sort of stuff. And some people might argue, oh yeah, but he was a kid then, he may not want to speak out. But then we just go back to Aaron Carter and Macaulay Culkin. Why haven't they spoken out? Michael's dead. Corey Feldman as well, who's Corey Feldman, I might add, teen actor, right? If you remember them, if you're as old as me, you remember The Lost Boys, you remember The Burbs, Goonies, yeah, he was in all those films, right? This guy has openly come out and said that he was molested within the industry, but said Michael never did anything to me. So, do you know what I mean? You haven't got a leg to stand on, but I just think from a point of view, it's quite interesting. If you wanted to say something, you had that opportunity. You could have jumped on there and then and said Michael did something to me and made some money.
But the fact that you don't, it's pretty telling.
And the parents seem like they're very much starstruck and wanted some money as well.
As is the case, yeah.
So, I don't know, I just think it's really, really, really kind of weird.
First on CBS this morning, Michael Jackson's family, they are speaking out about sexual abuse allegations against the singer in an explosive new HBO documentary. In Leaving Neverland, Wade Robson and James Safechuck claim Jackson abused them for years when they were young children. The documentary premieres this weekend. Jackson has always denied any inappropriate behavior with children. Safechuck and Robson both sued the Jackson estate, but their lawsuits were dismissed because of the statute of limitations. They are now appealing that. The Jackson family insists those claims are lies. We spoke to Michael Jackson's nephew Taj and brothers Jackie, Marlon, and Tito. I take this interview very, very seriously because it is very disturbing to me. And that's why I did want to talk to this child psychologist who's an expert. And she said it is extremely rare for teenage boys to make false claims of inappropriate sexual conduct against a man in particular.
Unless you're Michael Jackson.
Wade Robson met Michael Jackson when he was 5. James Safechuck filmed a commercial with Jackson just before he turned 9. Both say that for years the pop icon invited them to his homes and molested them. Accusations the Jackson family vehemently denies. One thing that struck me that Wade said, he calls Michael Jackson one of the most kindest, gentle, loving, caring person he knows, who helped him creatively, but also sexually abused him from the ages of 7 to 14. Do any of you think that both can be true?
Michael helped him in what he wanted to do with videos and music from that side of things. But if Neverland was so horrifying for him, and why would you keep going back?
None of us in this room were there at the time that these allegations were made. So how can you say what they're saying are lies?
No, we weren't there, and nobody was there, but the facts are a public record. I mean, would he testify under oath all the different things that he said? Those are the facts.
In the past, both men have said that Jackson never harmed them. In 1993, Safechuck gave a statement to police for a molestation case involving another boy. No criminal charges were filed. In 2005, when Jackson faced criminal charges, Robson took the stand. His testimony is often credited with helping Jackson win in court. Wade and James both say, Wade in particular has admitted, yes, I lied on the stand. Yes, I lied under oath. Yes, I lied to my parents. Yes, I lied to everyone I cared about because I wanted to protect Michael. He did not want to be the one, in his words, that harmed Michael Jackson. Do you not believe him when he says that?
I do not believe him when he says that because we know our brother. Michael wouldn't do anything like that. And then he waits until after the passing of Michael, 10 years later, to come out and state this. And they're still in court with the estate, suing them for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Michael's not here to defend himself.
Mm-hmm. So you think the only reason they're doing it is because Michael is no longer here?
Yeah.
And you don't buy that they wanted to protect him and that's why under oath they lied for him?
No, Wade's never protected anyone in his life.
Does the whole family feel this way? I've seen the comments from the brothers, but I haven't heard anything from your sisters. Maybe the same thing that you were saying?
About this. Of course.
I think there's a fear as well to put more energy to it and more eyeballs to it. I think that's why my Aunt Janet hasn't said anything, because she doesn't want to make it any bigger.
Why do you think they're coming forward now?
Money.
You think it's all about money?
Well, it's all about money.
It's always been about money. I hate to say it when it's my uncle, it's almost like they see a blank check, and because they've been taken care of their whole life, and I think that's the problem. These people felt that they're owed something. You know, instead of working for something, they blame everything on my uncle.
Some would say there's a lot at stake financially for the Jackson family as well.
No. We don't get anything from this thing.
Emotionally, but not
emotionally.
Not financially.
I mean,
Though the Jacksons haven't seen the documentary and say they will never watch it, they take issue with filmmaker Dan Reed, who they say never reached out to the family for their side of the story.
So he took what they were saying, face value, as to be true. But he trusted them, but which is nothing wrong with that, but you must verify. Because when you start throwing allegations out about someone, then you got to go back and go, wait a minute, let me make sure I'm telling the right thing. Make sure they're not selling me a bunch of goods, which they were.
What do you want to say about your brother as this documentary is about to hit the country?
I want them to understand and know that this documentary is not telling the truth. There has not been not one piece of evidence that corroborates their story, and they're not interested in doing that.
Some would say, though, guys, it's hard for you to sit here and say the documentary isn't telling the truth when you haven't seen the documentary. Shouldn't you see the documentary,
I don't
Jackie?
care to say no, because I know my brother. I don't have to see the documentary. I know Michael. I'm the oldest brother. I know my brother. I know what he stood for, what he was all about, bringing the world together, making kids happy.
And he was never, in your opinion, abusive to children?
No, never.
Never inappropriate with children?
Never
in a sexual way?
No, in a sexual way.
And the people that really know him, they know the truth too.
Yeah, they are very adamant. As you see, they said that over and over and over again. And even asked different ways about Michael. They all go back to, we know him. The world doesn't know him the way we know him, and he would never, ever hurt a child, which is what Michael Jackson used to say all the time.
And look, I understand as a family, they want to defend and protect him. But one thing that stood out to me watching the documentary is how alone Michael Jackson seemed, right? You didn't see the family around him. In fact, he viewed these boys as family. So that doesn't necessarily work with what they're saying.
He had a very complicated relationship with his family. And when you see the documentary, you will see he felt very close to strangers who you would think didn't know him as well as his family did. It's a very interesting dynamic all the way around, but they are very adamant about this. Michael Jackson did not do this. This is about money, and their brother is not here to defend himself.
So that was interesting, but you picked up just something while we were watching that about the media.
Yeah.
How they were spinning some shit.
The news, yeah, chatting shit again.
Yeah.
Are they going to say, well, the family weren't there in the video, in the documentary, so they weren't that close, but
Michael was very alone, but from what I understand, Michael was very much integrated with his family, and he spent a lot of time with his nephews. They all, and his nieces, and they all loved him like Uncle Michael. And they said he was a joker. Like he would just wind you up, play pranks on you all day long. Not just us, but everyone. Yeah. So to turn around and say that,
spin it.
You didn't even ask the family when they were there. You didn't say, oh, what was your relationship like with Michael at the time, or at any point throughout his career? Has it been good? Has it been solid? Because Michael seemed very lonely in the documentary, like he had no one. But like, that was nonsense. We were very tight knit. Yeah, we had our problems, which family doesn't, but we were still together, and we still spent time together with each other. But she waited until the analysis part of it with the other two reporters or presenters to put that out there,
which is the news being the news, and this is why anything that's coming out of it, you have to look with your eyes
critical eye,
and call it out.
I mean, I think the other thing that I think the nephew said it as well is that I feel like they were peed off that they didn't get to make millions under Michael, that they didn't become rich, wealthy superstars. Not similar to him, because that's like damn near impossible. Yeah. You may never see a Michael Jackson like that, a Michael Jackson again in terms of his wealth and his popularity. But they didn't become like Justin Timberlake's or Britney Spears or those sort of characters. One became a choreographer, one didn't become anything.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of anger maybe there that, Michael, you didn't make me rich and famous.
And now we're going to call you out for something you didn't do and hopefully get a payout.
Yeah. But let's see what else we got.
Even when you're on the witness stand defending him, you still did not think he was doing anything bad, or were you defending him because of your love for him? That's what I'm trying to understand. Did you think he might have done a bad thing, but I'm going to defend him, or did you not think it was bad? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. I didn't think about it as far as that concept. I couldn't even, I know this now, that I couldn't even go there. I couldn't even question Michael. Because if I was to question Michael and my story with Michael, my life with Michael, it would mean that I would have to question everything in my life. So it wasn't even an option to think about it. Michael was good. That was all that existed in my mind. Michael
and you,
never.
and in your mind, you were there to protect him and
Yeah,
to
that
save
was
him.
that was a huge part of it. You know, he started that training of me, you know, right away. It was if anybody ever finds out what we're doing, you know, we'll both go to jail for the rest of our lives. So I was terrified as well, for myself as well, but also terrified for him. I loved him and I wanted to protect him. And in my mind, up until whatever it was, 6 years ago or so, you know, I was going to take what truly happened to my grave. No question. That was the way it was.
Like, I don't know about you, but every time I see that guy talk, or the other one, Safechuck, so that was Wade Robson, right? I just feel like it's an act. It's like, even at the end where he puts his hand down and puts his mouth, it's like, yeah, you're not convincing me. You're not convincing me. Like, I don't see any sort of emotional trauma in you. I feel like you're putting it on to try and sell a lie. That's the feeling I always get from him. I don't know what you got from that.
I mean, even the fact that it's Oprah, and if you haven't seen it, watch the video where we react to Oprah, who literally says, you know, she strokes 7-year-old penises because to them it feels good. Like, she is literally on record talking about her being sexually assaulting children.
Also, let's not also forget and touch on the point that what I've mentioned in the past is about her academy in South Africa, which has had a few child sexual abuse cases, all right, which she's now under investigation, I believe, in South Africa, but obviously she's an American, so if she's not in South Africa, they can't do shit. So I don't know whether the US would extradite, but they won't. But there have been cases where she's prevented parents from seeing their children in the academy as well. Not only that cult in Brazil or South America where the leader was a rapist and an abuser himself, but she's held him up as like some pillar and some role model to her and all this spiritual leader of hers, and I'm like, so like who you?
Yeah, so listening to Oprah talk about child sexual assault is ironic. It's diabolical because we know, if you haven't seen it, watch the video because we've done a reaction video to it, but we know that she herself is actively involved in that. And now to have this Wade guy, to me, acting and giving a sob story, I loved Michael and that's why I committed perjury, which is a criminal offense in itself, to lie on the stand to protect Michael. But now that he's dead, now I'm going to I'm
going to tell the truth.
Now I'm going to tell the truth because
by the way, I'm broke and I need money. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like, I think in a nutshell, I think we'll leave it at that. I think we covered quite a bit off there.
It's such a shame to see in it because obviously who knows what kind of impact Michael Jackson was going to have, especially in the later years. I mean, look at the craziness that we've had in the last 5-10 years. What an influential person like Michael Jackson could have done in preventing or at least unifying the world. But yeah, with great power comes a target on your head. And as they said, you know, he might not have had the best support network around him to protect him in that sense. And big corporations and big giants and the devil himself is going to come for you.
True, very true. I mean, I think I've said enough. I don't believe it. I think it's a load of bull. I think the man had too much power. And I think the biggest thing was the amount of influence he had on the world. That's, I think, one of the probably most scariest things for them is that this man could actually influence people to come together and stop seeing differences in each other, which is literally what he was trying to do with his music, let's be honest. Yeah. And then towards the end of his career, or his life as well, he was trying to say, right, come together because now I'm going to reveal to you what's really going on.
Yeah, he was explicit about it.
Who really runs this industry, but also who runs this world, because I know that too. And I think he was going to expose the elites, and they couldn't have it. And
this is what I'm trying to say, especially when it comes to these allegations. We know that this stuff happens, but more importantly, that the elites that are doing it know to cover it up. And when they own the media, when they own the banks and the financial institutions, and when they own journalism,
they only expose themselves and the people that they have under their control who are doing it if they want to get rid of that person.
If they want to get rid of that person, they'll put a matrix attack on them. Yeah. And Michael as we've just said, was trying to expose these guys. And you don't do that. Or you shouldn't do that. Ideally, that's what we're trying to do here as well. But you shouldn't do that when you have that much influence and not be prepared for a fight. As you said earlier with John Lennon, the Beatles, and all these other artists that
who've spoken out.
Off you go.
See you later. Look, what I will do is, obviously, we'll finish up here, but at the end of the video, I will put up the 25 slides of the 25 lies from these guys, Safechuck and Wade Robson. Rather than me reading through it earlier on, that would have been quite tiresome to do and go through. So rather we just play the clips and chop it out with you guys. But stick around till the end. You can pause and read and see those slides to understand what went on in terms of what those 25 lies were, made up by Wade Robson and James Safechuck. But listen, look. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of it. If you're someone who believed the lies of the media and believed that Michael did all these things, I'm hoping this is giving you some food for thought, of course. But of course, leave a comment, and as always, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Cypher.
I'm Treble.
And we out.
Yeah, we're going to add as well the link for the Oprah video and the Hollywood Exposed on our channel. So
look out for that.
Watch the video.
We'll do like an end screen annotation for all that.
Yeah.
But we're out.
Peace.
All right, later.